Hey guys, Rook here. Yesterday I brought you the spoiler discussion for the Twisted Nightmares structure deck, and of course we've already seen the Match Millennium structure deck, and lo and behold, literally that evening, we got dropped the skill reveals for both Match Millennium and Twisted Nightmares. So I am here today to bring you exactly what those skills are and to break them down for you. So we received 8 skill spoilers for the Twisted Nightmares and Match Millennium that are coming out later this week. 2 Yugioh, 2 Pegasus, 2 Bakura, and 2 Merrick. I want to take some time today to go through exactly what they are and how they're going to affect the cards that come out in their specific structure decks. So let's get started. Let's start with the Yugioh skill cards. First one we see is the Ritual of Black Mastery. Excited for this one because it's trying to breathe some life into a Blackluster Soldier, Magician of Black Chaos kind of deck that you may see coming through in the format, depending on the strength of the skill. Activate the skill during your main phase while you control Blackluster Soldier or Magician of Black Chaos that you ritual summon this turn. So once you complete a successful ritual summon, you're able to activate the skill. You basically flip it over and you can utilize these effects now. So that gives you a little bit more of an incentive to try and 1, build a Blackluster Soldier or Magician of Black Chaos deck, and 2, get a summon off. The skill effects are, while you control Blackluster Soldier, it cannot be destroyed by your opponent's skill. Okay. Also, once per turn, if your opponent activates a trap card, draw 1 card immediately after it resolves. So if you find that your opponent has a heavy back row or they are trap heavy, trying to activate a lot of cards in the back row, you're able to capitalize on that and draw a card, and it all revolves around having Blackluster Soldier on the field. So that's a little bit of an advantage for a Blackluster Soldier deck to try and get some card draw and some card momentum there. Second effect is while you control Magician of Black Chaos, it cannot be destroyed by your opponent's spell effects. That's pretty good. Also, if your Magician of Black Chaos destroys a monster by battle, add 1 spell from your graveyard to your hand. So Magician of Black Chaos, this skill may revolve heavily around a spellcaster deck, especially if you're trying to sling a bunch of spells from your hand. You can get them back to your hand, so you don't need to use that Magician of Faith to try and get a spell back to your hand there. You can just use the skill. That's the first Yugioh skill here. The second one I'm personally excited for just because of the deck opportunity that it creates, the Knight of Legend. This skill, I have a hard time deciding if it's good or bad. I think it's good. You activate the skill during your main phase. Each turn, 1 Gaia the Fierce Knight you normal summon can be summoned without tributing. Guys, Gaia the Fierce Knight is a 7-star monster, 2300 attack, 2100 defense. Are you telling me you can normal summon that without tributing? This skill is a little broken right off the bat, just thinking about that. Now apply the following skills while you control a Gaia the Fierce Knight monster or a Gaia the Dragon Champion monster. Gaia the Dragon Champion is the fusion, which is Gaia the Fierce Knight and Curse of Dragon, but we're probably just going to see Gaia the Fierce Knight here a lot of the time. If it attacks a defense position monster, it gets piercing damage. Okay, that's great. Once per turn, if it inflicts battle damage with a skill, draw 2 cards, then discard 1 card. Okay, so it also serves as kind of like an engine to filter through your deck to get the next cards you want. That's pretty good. And you cannot activate set cards in the spell and trap zone. So it is definitely a double-edged sword. Knight of Legend is, hey, here's a 2300 attack monster that can't be destroyed that easily that you can summon without tributing, but I hope you didn't want to set any back row. So the Yugioh skills basically tell me, here is Ritual Black Mastery. Are you playing a lot of back row? You're playing a lot of spells. You're trying to ritual summon your monsters. And then here is Knight of Legend, which is just basically pull the goalie, no back row, just Gaia the Fierce Knight. We are going to topple over anything that comes in our path. I love the contrast between those 2 skills. I think they're going to be really great. I think I'm probably going to build a Knight of Legend deck where it's just straight up monsters and aggression and trying to figure out how I can beat my opponent there. Keeping with the Match Millennium theme, let's go and look at the Pegasus skills that were revealed. Shout out to Collector Keebler for revealing these skills here. I know that they were revealed sometime the night of May 11th, which was probably yesterday if I did this right and I made this video quick enough. Looking at the Pegasus skills, first one is Toon Mayhem. We were so excited to know what Toon Mayhem was. Finally, another Toon skill card. Is it going to be good? Maybe. The first time each Toon world in your spell and trap zone would be destroyed each turn, it is not. That's kind of, I don't know how that's going to help Toons, to be honest. It doesn't do anything new. I mean, it's a Toon world, acts as a Toon world right at the beginning of the duel, which is really, really important. It's really great to have Toon world in the beginning of the duel if you're playing Toons, of course. So Toon Mayhem says Toon world won't be destroyed once, but it doesn't give it to you right away, so you still have to fish for it in your deck. I honestly don't see any value in Toon Mayhem. I think it makes more sense to use It's a Toon World and then just tech a second Toon World, as opposed to playing Toon Mayhem and then trying to find Toon Worlds. Because if you have Toon Mayhem, but you don't have a Toon World in your opening hand, then you might run out of momentum before you can even get Toon World out and utilize this skill, to be honest. Like, it's great that, yeah, their Dust Tornado isn't going to destroy it the first time, but isn't it better to just have one out in the beginning and then maybe just have a second one in your hand ready for when it gets destroyed? I don't know. I understand that if it gets destroyed, everything on your field that revolves around Toon World being on the field in order for it to be alive goes away, so I can understand that for Toon Mayhem, but I honestly think that if I'm going to play Toons here, I'm going to keep using It's a Toon World. But there's Toon Mayhem for you, just to shake things up in the Toon decks. The other Pegasus skill is the Thousand Eyes spell, playing around the Thousand Eyes Restrict fusion monster that's coming out. You activate the skill during your main phase, so it's something that kind of hangs out around the entire duel. Once per turn, you can discard one card and use one of the following skills, but you cannot conduct your battle phase this turn. Okay, so this skill card immediately takes away your battle phase in order to use one of its skill effects. So these skill effects better be pretty good, right? So the first one is Ritual Summon one relinquish from your hand by tributing a monster from your... Okay, so basically, you discard one card and you basically get the Black Illusion Ritual. You get the ritual card right away. So is Sonic Bird even going to matter in these decks anymore? Who knows? You don't even need Black Illusion Ritual. You just have Thousand Eyes spell. All you have to do is discard literally one card. It could be anything. And you get the, of course, you have to satisfy the ritual by tributing the monster's levels are 1 or more, or you could banish the Sphere Creepo. That's how a lot of Relinquish get their tributes done. But basically you use this and you don't need Black Illusion Ritual. So what is Sonic Bird doing? So we might not even see Black Illusion Ritual run in Relinquish decks anymore, which is great. I mean, it frees up some card spots for sure. And then the second effect plays around Thousand Eyes Restrict, of course. You can fusion summon one Thousand Eyes Restrict from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field. Fusion material. Okay, so it basically is a fusion party specifically to Thousand Eyes Restrict. Like I said, this costs you to discard one card, and you cannot conduct your battle phase this turn. So you got to think about the consequences to getting these cards out. Are getting Relinquish or Thousand Eyes Restrict out going to completely shift the board in your favor? Are you going to be able to get those out and then immediately be able to take a monster from your opponent to flip it around so that it's okay that you don't have a battle phase right away because you've severely established your board and it's going to be really hard for your opponent to get over that? Another thing I want to point out about this skill card is that it is once per turn. It is once per turn. This isn't once per duel. Fusion Party was once per duel. You could use it as a polymerization. This is once per turn. You can discard a card and maybe get a Relinquish, maybe get a Thousand Eyes Restrict. So this takes anything that returns things to hand and throws it out the window, essentially. You think about Thousand Eyes Restrict, Relinquish. You were playing something like Gale Lizard or Hyper Hammerhead, anything that returned it to hand. That was devastating because you had to figure out how you were going to complete the entire ritual or fusion all over again. But with Thousand Eyes Spell, you don't have to worry about that because once per turn, you can just drop another card and do the whole thing over again. So it's really not going to slow down a Thousand Eyes Restrict or a Relinquish deck with any return to hand effects. So Thousand Eyes Spell seriously covers the Thousand Eyes Restrict deck's bases with return to hand effects. So I think that this is going to be a really, really great skill card. I think that everybody that's going to play Thousand Eyes Restrict is going to use this card, and I think it's going to be something that's pretty prevalent out there. So watch out for Thousand Eyes Spell. Let's get into the Merrick skill cards that we see coming from Twisted Nightmares. First one is Shadow Reborn. You can activate this skill during your main phase, and once per duel, you can pay half your life points and special summon one monster from either graveyard, but your opponent takes no battle damage this turn. Okay, so this is a once per duel skill effect. You pay half your life points. That could be a maximum of 2,000 life points. Depending on where you are, it will be less. And special summon one monster from either graveyard. So this is a monster reborn that you're paying half your life points for. Special summon one monster from either graveyard, but your opponent takes no battle damage this turn. So you special summon a huge boss monster that either you or your opponent lost, and it better be enough of a value to not have any sort of battle damage taken the next turn that you can slam into your opponent. I think the skill is going to be used on either a insane beater that your opponent's going to have a really, really hard time getting over, that either your opponent lost or you lost, or it's going to have some sort of monster with an effect that your opponent has a hard time getting over or getting around, something that avoids spell effects, something that avoids skills, something that avoids card effect destroys, something that comes back from the graveyard frequently. It's just, I think that there's a lot of versatility in this skill because you can figure out which monster is going to make the most value for you, and you can bring it back, paying half your life points, which, like I said, that could be 2,000, that could be 1,000. It really depends on where you are in the speed duel, and I think that it can make or break the game. Now, this has to be activated during your main phase, and it is once per duel, so you can only do this once. I think that Shadow Reborn is just a pretty good tech if maybe you're trying to satisfy a requirement like have a Fiend monster back out on the field in order to activate something like Twin-Headed Wolf's effect. It really, like I said, there's so many possibilities that I could go over with why you want X monster back onto your field. Get the right board set up, maybe get it out for a tribute. Obviously, you could even just blow it to get something back out just so you can tribute. There's something you want to tribute for, a 5 or 6 star Fiend monster that's coming back out. It'll be interesting to see what this skill does. And the other Merrick skill is Twisted Personality. This is another couple effects skill. Each time a player loses life points, place a counter on this card, max 3. Once per turn during your main phase, you can use one of the following skills. The first one is remove 2 counters from this card, then discard 1 random card from your opponent's hand. Okay, what does that sound like? That sounds like the Dark Red Enchanter. Every time a player loses life points, either player, could be you, could be the opponent, you place a counter on this card. So you're probably going to get 2 counters pretty easily, depending on the back and forth exchange. If somebody's playing burn, if somebody's whittling your life points away, or vice versa, you're whittling their life points away, you're going to get 2 counters pretty quickly, and then you can start discarding hands. So this is another card where I think really starts to just make the opponent be afraid of keeping cards in the hand. We're seeing more and more discard effects. We were seeing Donzalug before and Forceful Checkpoint, and now we're seeing other cards, specifically around the structure deck, that is going to discard random cards from the opponent's hand. So now the opponent has to be afraid of what they want to keep in their hand, what they want to set, when do they want to drop that Sphere Karibo, really all these things that kind of makes them scared and keeps them thinking. Now if you get it all the way up to 3 counters, you can remove 3 counters from this card, then destroy 1 face-up card your opponent controls. So you get to target 1 card and you get to destroy it. That's pretty straightforward as well. I think that, like I said, depending on if you're playing burn or something that whittles away the life points or vice versa, like I said, it's each time a player loses life points, so it could be really easy to get to 3 counters. You can destroy a face-up card your opponent controls. So maybe you had to sacrifice teching in a monster, or teching in something like Offerings to the Doom, where it's like, I don't know how to beat over this monster, I'm just going to Offerings to the Doom. And maybe you couldn't fit that in your deck. But maybe you have Twisted Personality, where you get it to 3 counters. There you go. There's your free pop. You can pop a monster your opponent controls, which is really great. That could shift the momentum for you significantly. So Twisted Personality is a super versatile card. Personally, my favorite Merrick skill out of the 2. I think that we're going to see a lot of use out of this. Alright, and the last character that got 2 skills, we got Bakura. First skill is Into the Darkness Below. You activate this skill during your main phase, so this is another skill that just kind of hangs out there for the whole duel. And once per turn, you can discard 1 normal fiend monster, then use one of the following skills. Okay, so right away that tells me that this is trying to incentivize you to run a lot of normal fiend monsters. We saw that there are quite a few that came out or coming out in the new structure deck, so there's a plethora of them to choose from, and you have 2 effects. You can use one of the following skills. One is to draw 1 card, also flip this card over. Okay, so you can discard a normal fiend monster or draw a card. That seems pretty standard. Maybe you don't have the right card in your hand. You want to draw a card. Actually, I could see this working with Order to Charge too, with the normal fiend. But anyway, you draw 1 card, also flip this card over. So it's basically just a way to kind of mill through your deck, get the cards you want. The second skill is if you have 4 or more fiend normal monsters with different names in your graveyard, you add 1 monster from your deck to your hand, also flip this card over. Okay, so the skill kind of works in tandem with itself. You are able to mill the normal fiend monsters you want into your graveyard to draw a card. So you're not just like paying a cost and then nothing comes out of it. You get to draw a card. And then eventually you get 4 or more fiend normal monsters in your graveyard after using this skill so much. Now you get to add 1 monster from your deck to your hand. That's the card you want. You get that 1 monster that you really want and make sure that it's in your hand and you flip the card over. Into the Darkness Below is a great way to kind of shuffle through the deck really quickly and get the cards you want. I could see this skill being used in a deck that has more than 20 cards. You don't want to mill too quickly, and also it sounds like a skill associated with a deck that wants a large graveyard, and there are also a lot of cards that are coming out in the Twisted Nightmares structure deck that involves having a lot of cards in the graveyard and playing around with banishing and everything like that. So I think it's going to work really well with that. That'll be interesting to see too. And then last skill that we saw revealed, the Bakura skill, Inner Conflict. Activate this skill during your main phase. Once per duel, you can pay half your life points and take control of 1 monster your opponent controls until the end phase, but it cannot attack directly this turn. So the first thing I took away was, okay, we have 2 skills right now that involves paying half your life points. That's a minimum of 2,000 life points depending on what happens. You take control of 1 monster your opponent controls until the end phase, can't attack directly this turn. Okay, so this is kind of like a change of heart. You take control of 1 monster until the end phase. This is like the, what is it, the Enemy Controller? Is that the card? Yeah, guys, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. I think it's similar to Enemy Controller, which was a real headache in Duel Links, but essentially you take control of 1 monster your opponent controls to the end phase, but it can't attack directly. So basically what you're using this skill for is to take a monster your opponent controls and then use it to crash into another monster your opponent controls. You're essentially paying the cost to destroy 2 of your opponent's monsters, which I don't know, because Hidden Parasite Aerosol does that too. Now I understand that in this case you're not paying a card cost to activate Eradicating Aerosol. Instead you're activating and paying half your life points, so there may be be some value there, but it'll be interesting to see how this skill card interacts with the deck that it's accompanied by and how you're trying to eliminate your opponent's monsters. Also, it is recommended that the cards crash so that the monster doesn't go back to the opponent at the end of the turn. For example, obviously I have Perfectly Ultimate Great Moth on my mind still because that is the meta right now. You see an opponent that activates Cocoon of Ultra Evolution and gets Parasite Paranoid off the field to get a moth from the deck, and then also has a moth in the hand, so there's two moths right there, right? Both 3,500 attack. You activate a skill like this, pay your half life points, you can take control of one moth and slam it into the other moth. That solves your moth problem. You got both of them off the field. You could also just use it to tribute. Maybe you have something in your hand that you want to tribute for, so that's perfectly reasonable. So it'll be interesting to see how this card's going to interact with the structure deck cards. But that's it, guys. So 8 new skills from 4 very, very classic characters here. Really excited to see the structure decks. It really looks like it's all coming together now, isn't it? Actually, just every little piece of information that I'm getting now makes me more and more excited for these. And I really think it's just going to breathe new life into the Speed Duel format because it's just so different. There's so many cards that introduce new effects, just new ways to think about the game, especially around these skills that we saw today. There's certainly the Yugioh skills, and I think the Bakura skills are going to be fantastic. Obviously, the Gaia skill I'm most excited about. Into the Darkness Below, I'm very excited to see. Maybe make a 30-card Fiend deck, we will see. And Twisted Personality from Merrick. Sorry, Pegasus. I know there are some people that are really, really excited to play Thousand Eyes Restrict, and I don't blame them. It seems like a fun deck, but I think I'm going to stay away from Thousand Eyes Restrict. I might play Tunes for fun, but I can tell you right now that it seems like that's not going to be as good as what's going on with Merrick and Bakura right now. We'll have to see. I'm really excited. I hope you guys are excited too. I can't wait for this to come out. I've already pre-ordered my copies, and of course I will be opening those and slapping decks together as soon as they come out, and I encourage you guys to do as well. So guys, if there's any immediate deck ideas you have based on the skills that I've revealed here today, please post them in the comments below so I can steal them and make deck profiles from them. I may credit you, I may not, but also feel free to like the video if you guys like the video, and subscribe for more, as obviously we have a lot of new deck ideas coming out. I will be making them and showing them to you. So I'll catch you guys when these come out. See ya.